Welcome to this World Bank Live information session about the Africa Sustainable Futures Awards. Thank you for tuning in from Africa and beyond, and thank you for sending us your questions in advance. We'll get to as many as we can later in the session, and we're also tracking your questions live. The Africa Sustainable Futures Awards is one of the most exciting initiatives I've been involved in as head of special projects at the Financial Times, and I'm delighted to be sharing this session in the company of Chinwe Biniche, co-head of partnerships at the World Bank Group's Multilateral Investment Guarantees Agency, co-organizers of these awards with the Financial Times. It's also my pleasure to have with us senior representatives of three previous winners of these awards, Pierandrea Renna, Vice President of Pay-As-You-Go programs at Sunking, Nivi Sharma, CEO of Fika, and Rahul Chowdhury, Group Head of Human Resources at Spiro. We'll be shortly hearing more about these highly innovative organizations and the progress they've made since winning their awards in October 2024. But before we do that, I'd like to say a few words about this program, which is now in its third year. It's clear that Africa has one of the fastest growing regional economies in the world, and yet much still needs to be done to address the challenges faced by many communities, particularly in fragile and conflict-affected areas. These awards showcase private sector solutions to these challenges that will boost job creation, human development, and economic competitiveness. We focus on four key areas: energy infrastructure, critical non-energy infrastructure, agribusiness, and manufacturing. We also feature an innovation showcase, which highlights early-stage projects that have the potential, with additional funding, to have a major impact. Why sustainable futures, you may ask? The awards address not just current needs, but also the well-being of future generations, at a time when it is more important than ever to build self-sustaining models for growth. The program has certainly captured the interest of many African entrepreneurs. We received more than 300 entries last year. This year's entry deadline is June the 30th. I'm going to give details later in this session on how to apply the judging criteria, the entry criteria, and all the information you need. There's no monetary prize, but as we will hear from these three outstanding award winners today, there is much to be gained from being recognized by our program. Pierre, over to you first. In the inaugural awards in 2024, Sun King's off-grid solar solutions won the Energy Access Prize and also the overall Judges Award for Excellence. Please give us a snapshot of your operations and the impact your awards have had.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. It's a pleasure being here, and I am glad to speak about Sun King a little bit more. Sun King is the largest off-grid solar company operating in Africa and Asia. We have so far deployed over 30 million of our products. These are solar home systems of different sizes. And today we are operating at a deployment rate of 350,000 units every month. And the financing aspect of our business is crucial to improve accessibility and target the key issue of affordability of the solar kits that we deploy. So the financing aspect allows us to deploy these units, these products pretty effectively without having a significant impact on customers' wallets. And so far we have almost gotten to $2 billion in financing deployed over the last 7 or 8 years. And this has had an incredible impact on the rural and off-grid populations and consumers who are just like you and I, having the need for access to energy and a service that works, products that works, and service that works. We are now in 11 countries in Africa, and we keep on expanding. The pay-as-you-go financing aspect of our business allows customers to have access to basic energy, that's lights and phone charging, for as low as 19 US dollar cents per day. which are then paid over a period of a few months. And after that is, after the payment plan is over, then the customers fully own the product. Our target is really about, and our objective is really to make these solutions and access to clean energy as effective or more effective than the current energy sources that our customers are using. That could be kerosene, that could be just grid connection, as well as diesel generators, to give some examples, and to make it at a similar cost so that customers don't feel the impact of a solar kit on their wallets. The Financial Times and the awards that we won in 2024, that's for energy access and Judges Award of Excellence, have really given us a stage internationally, allowing investors both in Africa and outside of Africa, commercial banks as well, to understand what this business is about, first of all, and also to understand the commercial opportunity that lies into the work that we do. In 2023, we deployed our first local currency securitization in Kenya, and that was a groundbreaking achievement for us because it allowed us to de-risk currency devaluations risks, as this was as I mentioned, a local currency securitization. So that was initially driven by a few DFIs, development finance institutions, such as FMO, BII, Norfund, and Trade Development Bank, with a couple of commercial bank presence. That's Citibank, ABSA Bank, Kenya. And that was, the initial point for us to prove that there is financial viability in the work that we do. The awards that we were a recipient of from a Financial Times really have given us this visibility, as I mentioned earlier, to the point where commercial banks directly reached out to us in the months and years to come about the possibility of deploying a similar securitization deal. And that's what happened in 2025. So in 2025, we had a larger securitization in Kenya of $156 million. And in this securitization, we had a much stronger presence of commercial banks from KCB, ABSA, and a few other commercial banks in Kenya. And the presence of DFIs slightly reduced compared to the previous securitization. So this visibility, this stage that these awards have given us, have really contributed to allowing us to continue with our growth. We are now deploying, as I mentioned, 350,000 units a month. And back then in 2024, we were at 200,000 units, and we keep on seeing this growth taking place. This has had an incredible opportunity for us to showcase our work and what we do in Sanking. We have very big ambitions. We are planning in the next 5 years or so to deploy an additional 50 million units because our mission, our objective is to make a significant dent onto the energy access gap that exists today in Africa, where 600 million people still don't have access to energy, and a lot more, over 1 billion, have unreliable access to energy. So yeah, thanks, Jeff. That's
Thank you.
That's
Pierre.
what I'm saying.
Nivi, when you won the Innovation Showcase in 2024, the name of your organization was Bridges to Prosperity. You're now called Fika, and you've seen major expansion. Take us through your journey and the impact the awards have had.
Yeah, Jeff, as you said, we won the award for the Innovation Showcase Award, which was awarded to us as a result of us using real innovation, deep machine learning and artificial intelligence to map the waterways of Africa. We kept seeing time and again that over the 800 bridges we had built over the world, very few of them seemed to have been built over water. If we looked at a traditional map, which obviously wasn't true, turns out that over 60% of Africa's waterways and rivers are not mapped or were not mapped. So we used all the learnings that we had from mapping one small country like Rwanda, which took 7 years to do, but taking those learnings, taking the learnings from Europe and USA, which are very well mapped, comparing satellite images, combining them with deep elevation models to guess where maps were. And when we did the ground truthing of that, turns out that our models worked really, really well. What ended up happening with that was not only tripling Africa's, but the global mapped waterways. So even places in Asia and Latin America, the waterways are notoriously badly mapped. And so that's what we won the award for. Since then, we have been, building upon that innovation to really think about, well, if we know where the water is, and we had previously known where the travel paths are, people are walking to schools and clinics and marketplaces, then we can combine that data and now really start to predict where crossing paths should be. So we can cut down travel time for kids going to school, sick people going to clinics, pregnant women getting attended births, farmers getting to market, and so on. So, rather than just building bridges, we've also realized that our mission is about safe arrivals and enabling those safe arrivals by working with our government partners. And so the word Fika in Swahili means to reach or to arrive, with the connotation safely. And that was part of the reason for the rebrand. In working with our government partners, the FTA and World Bank award really was quite an eye-opener, and resetting our strategy and saying that we've done so much work in prioritizing rural access. We have copious amounts of evidence about the rate of the return on investment of rural infrastructure. We have invested so much in technical advisory services. So teaching in the regulators, the private sector, on how to build safe and long-lasting and climate-smart and low-cost infrastructure. And then now what we really needed to do now is scream and shout about that, but also help governments find the financing. So what are the right kind of capital stacks that we can deploy to make sure governments are able, once they're willing, to invest in the right infrastructure, in the right place for the right people. So it's really been a wonderful experience since, and a lot of growth, and a lot of governments we're seeing leaning in to an organization. The award certainly gave a lot of credibility to the technology we've built and the deep underlying care that we have for rural communities that shone through.
Fantastic. Rahul, Spiro won the Resilient Infrastructure Award in 2024. And since then, you've raised significant funds to expand your electric motorbike and battery swapping operations. Do you want to take us through that?
Sure, Jeff, and thank you. And it's wonderful to be back at this platform. Jeff, I think when World Bank and Financial Times awarded us this Resilient Infrastructure Award, if I may say, we were just learning how to walk. And I'm very glad to share that probably now, when we are having this conversation after a year and some time, I think we are poised to learn how to run. And I think you have rightly mentioned that since this award, we have done successful round of funding. And I think Financial Times had a role to play. It not only helped us in external stakeholders like those of investors, but in some ways it has also helped us to kind of have reassurance that the direction that we were taking is something which is valued at a global platform. So the journey has been wonderful. So let me spend some time and build on what we have done since. And for introduction, Spiro is an energy and mobility organization with a technology first approach. energy because we own and manage a large swap infrastructure. So we have close to 1,500 swap stations today. As we speak, they may go up to 5,000 swap stations by end of this year alone. The humongous numbers of transactions that we are managing. So it's close to 3 million swaps a month. So these riders come at our swap station, they are basically becoming energy independent, and it really translates into a real saving and impact. So our customers are, if I may say, are at the bottom of the economic pyramid, and the $1 saving that we give them is actually making an impact in terms of their access to health, to the nutrition, in terms of having better food, to education, and all different parameters for living a good life. Moving on to mobility, we are the largest player in the two-wheeler segment today. I think when we won the award, there were close to 20,000 bikes on the ground, and today we are close to 100,000 bikes. The target is to sell close to 150,000 bikes this year, and maybe million units in the upcoming year. So we are really going aggressive, and I'm happy that initially this the belief that FT and World Bank shown somewhere has played a good role. So yeah, so that's where the journey has been fantastic, Jeff. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Rahul. Chinwe, we've just heard from 3 award-winning companies operating on the ground in Africa. From your perspective at the World Bank Group, what stands out to you about their business models? And where do institutions like MIGA and the World Bank Group as a whole make the biggest difference in helping companies like these scale?
Thank you, Jeff. And I want to say a big thank you to our awards winners for joining us today and for sharing your updates with us. You're all winners because your projects are so innovative, addressing real solutions with a great sense of purpose. And you're essentially making lives better for the people in the markets that you serve. From my perspective, I was inspired by all your stories. It's also not lost on us that while you're providing these services, you're operating in very challenging environments. You're dealing with policy and regulatory challenges. You're dealing with unstable geopolitical conditions, currency volatility, and climate pressures. And I think the recurring story here today is what MIGA has always known, which is that there's great opportunity in Africa despite the noise on the surface. And that's part of the reason why we do these awards. We want to highlight and showcase the investment and the entrepreneurship and the enterprise that's happening in Africa. So where does MIGA fit into all this? Well, first of all, for those who don't know, MIGA is part of the World Bank Group. We essentially administer the World Bank Group's guarantees platform. Our mandate is really to facilitate foreign direct investment in emerging and developing economies. We do this by issuing guarantees that help investors against non-commercial risk. We expect investors to take commercial risk, but for the kinds of risks that investors cannot control against, we step in. So we provide guarantees for that protect against, for example, currency inconvertibility, if you're unable to take your money out of a country, or if you're unable to convert it into another currency, we step in with that. We cover damages in instances of war and civil disturbance. We cover instances where there may be cases of expropriation by a government. And we also cover breach of contract where an investor actually has a contract directly with the government. Another great thing about MIGA is that we cover projects in every part of the world, as long as it's a developing country. So obviously Africa is very important to us and we are very present there. We're also present in Latin America and in parts of Asia as well. We're sector agnostic, so we work across sectors in energy, agribusiness, finance. And so we're really here to help all kinds of investors in whatever business they choose to undertake. I will say since 1988, MIGA has issued over $100 billion in guarantees across over 1,000 projects in over 120 countries. We want to continue to help investors scale strong businesses in Africa. Thank you.
Thanks, Chinwe. That's absolutely, and we just love partnering with MIGA because it's really fascinating how important you are and in the whole sort of ecosystem of investing in Africa. I think this is a good time actually to look at some of the questions that have come in from our registered delegates. And there's one which I think perhaps you could help answer, Chinwe, if you don't mind. Since this is from Shehu Idris Musa in Nigeria, since this year's awards place special emphasis on moving beyond traditional development models by mitigating risk and driving operational excellence, how heavily does the judging panel weigh a company's internal institutional capacity, such as strategic workforce planning and structured corporate governance, when evaluating the long-term scalability of an initiative?
Hi, Shehu. Thank you very much for the question. It's a great question, actually, because you're right. The capacity and operating capability of the investors that MIGA works with is something that we look at very carefully. It's something that's very important to us. And so, yes, when we look at applicants for these awards, we do look beyond sort of their commercial operations. And we look at how their governance works and how they run the institution in general. It's important to us that they are mindful of environmental and social impacts of their work. We care that they're responsible in labor issues and labor conditions, how they treat their employees. We care that they have the right governance in place and that, you know, they play well in the communities that they're engaged in. So overall, we want to make sure that they're working in a sustainable manner and that their businesses are inclusive, that opportunities are maximized to include women to improve access in general. And so, yes, we do look at all of that. From our perspective, no matter how robust a company is from a commercial perspective, you know, no matter what their business model is doing and how the business is performing, impact is a key aspect for us in the World Bank Group and at MIGA. And I guess we feel that these impacts are important, not just for the success of the company, but also for the environment in which it's operating in. It's also important for scalability, right? The more efficiently a company is run, the more impactful, the more sustainable, the easier it actually is to scale the business in the country that it's in and across Africa. So we think it's a win-win situation when the company is doing well commercially, as well as governance-wise and institutionally, and overall being a good corporate citizen. Thank you for the question.
Absolutely. There's another question which I will answer. Could you clarify, this is from Idra Narayan Shrestha in India, I think. Could you clarify whether individual researchers based outside the Africa region are eligible to apply in the, or is the Africa Sustainable Futures Awards limited to Africa-based organizations and teams? Yes, actually, the awards are limited. In essence, we accept entries from Africa-based organizations. If we receive an entry from outside Africa, we assume that it's because the whoever's entering is investing in Africa, has operations in Africa, partners with companies in Africa, but we don't accept entries from outside Africa that actually are not operational in Africa. I hope that helps. And I'd like to actually, this is a good sort of segue back to our panel. I know that a lot of people watching are probably wondering, well, what makes a good entry? You know, how can we make sure that the judging panel takes our entries seriously and gives us a chance? What do we have to put in there that actually makes them really look at our entry and look at our initiative? Pierre, what do you think is crucial for an entry to succeed in this competition?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. I think that one of the most important bits related to the application is, first of all, clarity of what the company, the mission of the business is, what kind of problem is being solved, is crucial for the application to be successful. In some cases, you know, and that happens to me as well. Whenever I have to explain what Sanking does, I get to dive deep into the details without giving enough context about the objectives of the business. But that's a very, very important thing to keep in mind for the application. Yeah.
Indeed. Nivi, what do you think?
Yeah, very much want to echo what Pierre just said, especially with a technical and innovative solution. It's so tempting to go into the details and get into the weeds about it. So you've really got to balance giving enough detail to show that you know what you're talking about, but also showing enough passion and the biggest story of it. I think what helped us was the fact that we could, it was very easy to envision the scale of the impact of what we were doing and the thing that we were innovating. Balancing storytelling through passion is really good, really bringing it down from this is our intervention or this is our technology and this is our plan and our financing, down to what does this mean to the kind of end user that you're trying to serve. And interestingly, I remember, Jeff, that when we first saw this award, half of our team said, no, I don't think we're going to win this. Let's not waste our time. This is for private sector, or, we don't quite fit into it. My recommendation is, if you think you're doing good work, or if you know you're doing good work, and you're having a good impact and really pushing forward the sustainability agenda, whether it's through environment, through the social, through the governance, whatever it is, do take a chance and apply, because whatever you're doing in your corner of the world could be probably is more impactful than you think when you zoom out.
Rahul, what any advice do you have?
Sure, Jeff. I think Nivi and Pierre have covered probably well, but maybe I'll build on what helped Spiro probably, and I would articulate it in a way that I think understanding and articulating your problem statement, like what we had, like for us, we were solving the macro problem of even the exchange which countries spend in terms of getting fuel imported, and also at a micro level where these savings are really resulting into impact to our end customer. So basically defining this problem statement, bringing out the impact, and ultimately probably being bold about it. So like I think all the organization who have won award, I think it's testimony that the kind of growth that we have seen, and I think we could put that in the nomination as how do we see the future and how would we go about it. I think that's pretty much it from my end.
Thanks, Rahul. That's very, I totally agree with that. I think having been at quite a few judging meetings for these awards, it's clear that the judges really value the detail, particularly the financial information that we ask at the top of the form. That's really important, just so we can get an idea of the size of an organization, the commercial viability. That's really important. Then obviously answering each of the questions really clearly, but really sort of digging deep into what makes this initiative that is being entered, what makes it unique, and what makes it and the passion that comes across from the ambitions that the organization has for growth, the long-term view. All of that needs to come through as well. So those are just a few pieces of advice that we have. And really, just to finish off, a reminder to everybody that's interested in applying that you have plenty of time. The entry deadline is June the 30th. please go to our website at africasustainablefuturesawards.live.ft.com and register and enter. You don't have to submit immediately. You can really work on your application until it's ready, but please submit before June the 30th. The awards are open to all private sector organizations, but please be aware that we're actually not focusing on the organization itself. We're focusing on a specific projects, transactions and initiatives. So for instance, if an organization has multiple different projects going on at the same time, you can apply for all of those. The judges will evaluate the entries based on innovation, impact, replicability, financial viability, sustainability, and inclusion. And they're also going to look at operating models. We only accept initiatives launched in 2016 or later. Each category, apart from the Innovation Showcase, will require entrants to meet a specific minimum revenue level. And you can find those details on the website. I won't go through each of those revenue levels now, but you'll see on the website. It has all of the details you need. And we also have the judging criteria that the judging panel will use to evaluate those entries. We have an expert panel of judges, including leaders, obviously, from MIGA and the FT, but also from IFC, British International Investment, Africa 50, and investment firms, Norscan 22 and Capria Ventures. And just a reminder, it's not a monetary prize, but if you're shortlisted for these awards, your organization will be featured on the World Bank Group platform, in the Financial Times, showcasing your work to international audiences. Your senior executives will be invited to attend the awards dinner in London, and also the FT's Africa Summit, which is a major event happening the same week. And you'll be in the room with leading investors, policymakers, and innovators that are shaping Africa's future. There's a lot to be gained. So please don't hesitate to email us if you have any questions at africasustainablefuturesawards@ft.com. And we look forward to receiving your entries. Thank you very much for joining.